Hello dear friends, nice to see you again. Today I will show you how to sew this black sparkly dress for girls. This enchanting black dress sparkles beautifully and has a full, voluminous skirt. It has tulle and lace bows on the shoulders, adding a touch of elegance and charm. This dress is perfect for making a girl feel like a princess. Are you ready to sew? The materials I will use for this dress are satin, plain cotton, plain tulle, sparkly tulle, fusible interfacing, eyelash lace, crinoline tape, elastic band, black thread, pins, scissors, a ruler, a white fabric marker, and of course, a sewing machine. So let's look at the technical side of the dress first. The dress is made of two main parts, the top bodice and the skirt. These parts are made separately and then joined together to form the dress. Then, the bodice is made from three separate pieces: the front bodice, the back panel, and the straps. The skirt is made from several long rectangles that are gathered and layered on top of each other. Today, I will show you a new technique for achieving a full skirt. In a previous video, I showed how to make the dress puffy using a petticoat. This time, I will demonstrate another method using crinoline tape to create volume and pretty wavy hem in the skirt. So, I will be dividing the work into three major steps. Step 1, making the bodice. Step 2, making the skirt. And step 3, joining the pieces together. So, I begin with step number 1, the bodice. I take my bodice pattern, which includes front piece, back panel, and straps, and I will prepare my fabrics. I will use black satin material as main fabric. I will use plain cotton as lining, and I will use sparkly tulle to make it sparkly. Sparkly tulle, also known as glitter tulle, is a soft and easy to work with material compared to sequin fabric, which is another option for creating sparkly garments. However, sequin fabric is much more challenging when sewing. It is hard on needles and it is heavier, so I chose glitter tulle to achieve the sparkly effect. The downside of glitter tulle is that some glitter may fall off, so you might end up with a sparkly room and environment. But during the festive season, that's part of the charm anyway. So I don't mind it. So I take the satin fabric and press it. I make sure the pattern piece fits on it. Then, I take the glitter tulle and layer it on top of the satin. I gently press the sparkly tulle. Next, I cut the cotton piece for the lining. I will reinforce the cotton with fusible interfacing to make it more structured. I won't add fusible to the satin because it is sturdy on its own. Once I have all the fabrics prepared, I layer them together: the satin, the sparkly tulle, and the reinforced cotton. Then I place my front bodice pattern piece on top and trace it onto the fabrics. I pin all the layers in place and then cut the shape out. Then I gently lift off the top layer, which is the cotton, making sure not to move the bottom layers, the satin and the sparkly tulle. I then use pins to secure the satin and sparkly tulle together. I set these pieces aside for now and repeat the same steps for the back panel. I layer the fabrics again and cut out the back panel. Then I take the front and back panel pieces, the pinned satin and sparkly tulle ones, to the sewing machine and sew around the edges to secure the sparkly fabric to the satin. When sewing these parts, I recommend keeping the tulle on the bottom and sewing from the satin side. If the tulle is on top, the presser foot pushes it and it tends to shift. With the tulle underneath, this problem disappears. So make sure you sew with the satin on top and the tulle on the bottom. After sewing these pieces, press them flat. Again, press from the satin side. Tulle reacts to heat and may stick to the iron, so always press from the sturdier fabric side. The next step is making the straps. The good news is that the straps for this dress don't need to be sewn. We only need to cut them out, so that's one less job to do. For this dress, the bows on the shoulders are lightweight, semi-see-through, and have a hint of delicate lace. Therefore, I will be using tulle and eyelash lace to create them. Because both tulle and eyelash lace are very delicate and thin, each strap will be made using 3 layers of these fabrics. So I cut the needed amount of plain black tulle and a piece of sparkly tulle and place them on top of each other. I position the strap pattern onto the tulle layers. This time, I don't trace it. I simply cut around it. Then I separate the tulle pieces for each strap. Each strap will consist of 1 plain tulle piece, 1 sparkly tulle piece, and 1 eyelash lace piece. The eyelash lace I'm using is a lace trimming tape, so I don't need to cut the strap shape out of it, I just cut the length that I need. Then I layered the 3 pieces together. First, I placed the sparkly tulle, then the eyelash lace, and the final layer is the plain tulle. I align these pieces at the top, pin them together, and stitch them with the sewing machine. I do this for both straps, and then I attach the straps to the front bodice piece. You will notice that the strap is slightly wider than the area on the bodice where it needs to be placed. That's not a problem. I simply make a small fold at the tip of the strap and fit it into the required space. I will repeat that on the second strap, so you can see clearly what I am doing. Then we sew the straps with the machine. And then the next step is to add the lining to the top bodice. So I take the lining piece and place on top of the sparkly piece, good sides facing each other. Make sure the straps are put nicely down and they don't get caught in the seams. I pin these 2 pieces together around the armholes and neckline, and then sew them with the machine. I use a smaller stitch when sewing curved parts of a garment, and I recommend doing the same. Children's clothing is small, and a shorter stitch helps you maneuver around tighter areas easier. It also creates a stronger seam. Now, I will trim the seams down to 2 to 3 millimeters so that the curves look smooth once the dress is turned right side out. Then I turn the bodice and I press it. Again, make sure you press from the wrong side. Avoid putting the iron on the sparkly tulle. I'm using my scissors to push out the seams. Just have to make sure the item used here is not sharp. And here is the finished front bodice piece with lovely tulle and lace straps that will be tied into intricate bows later on. To finish this lovely bodice, we need the back panel. So I take the piece that I prepared earlier on, the satin and sparkly tulle sewed together, and I will add lining to it now. Just a reminder, the lining is made of plain cotton reinforced with interfacing. I place this piece on top of the sparkly piece with the right sides facing each other. I align them and then pin them together at the top. And then I stitch there with the sewing machine. Then I open it, press the seam, and fold it so the right sides are facing out. Next, I stitch a straight line about half a centimeter away from the top. This is just a decorative seam. It doesn't have a functional purpose, but it makes the top of the panel look nicer. The next step is to sew the channels for inserting the elastic. I use the back panel pattern to mark the edges of the channel lines. Just a reminder, the lines must be drawn on the inner side of the panel, the non-sparkly side. In other words, the lining side. I mark where the lines start on each edge. Then draw them across the panel using a ruler and a white fabric marker, which will disappear later on. I place a few pins on the panel to keep both fabrics in place. and then sew along the white lines with the sewing machine. The channels for the elastic are formed. Then I cut the needed amount of elastic. The amounts and lengths for each size are given in the pattern, which you can find in the link below. Normally, I would recommend using black elastic for a black dress, but since the fabrics are dense and not see-through, white works as well. I didn't have black elastic on hand, so I'll be using white. Oops. But once it's sewn in, nobody will see it and nobody will know. So in this case, it's perfectly fine. I use a safety pin to insert the elastic into each channel. I secure each one at the edges with pins. When all of them are inserted and pinned, I sew the edges with the sewing machine, locking the elastic bands in place. The last step to finish the bodice is to join the front piece with the back panel. So I take my front piece, separate the lining from the sparkly top, and lay them flat on the table. Then I take my back panel and pin it to one side of the top, as shown on the screen, with the sparkly sides facing each other. Then I sew that seam with the machine, making sure the lining is out of the way for now. Once that is done, I bring it back to the table, lay it flat again, and then bring the lining over the seam, as shown on the screen. I pin the lining in place and sew over that seam again. Once that is done, I trim the little corner and turn the piece right side out. I press the seam from the lining side, and then I repeat the same steps on the other side. And the bodice is finished, guys. I love using a stretchy back panel for kids' dresses. It's so comfortable for the child to wear. It fits well, and there's no hassle when putting it on or taking it off, since you can simply pull it up or slip it over the shoulders. It's also much easier to make compared to complicated zippers, buttons, and loops. So I hope you'll love it too. It is time to move on to step number 2, making the skirt. As I mentioned, today I will be showing you a new technique for creating a full skirt. There are always a few ways to achieve the same result. In a previous video, I showed how to make a puffy skirt using a petticoat. Today, I'll be making a puffy skirt using crinoline tape and a few layers of tulle. But let's start from the beginning. I will be using plain cotton fabric to create the base of the skirt. You might think that satin would be nicer for a special occasion dress, but for this particular skirt, I still recommend using cotton. Compared to satin, cotton has more structure, is slightly thinner, and is easier to sew. And since this skirt will only be used as the base, it won't be the top skirt. It will be completely hidden by the other layers. That's why I chose cotton, even though it might seem too simple or too plain for a special occasion gown. So, to cut out the skirt, there is no actual pattern for it. I cut the skirt directly from the fabric as it is. I'm using standard width fabric, which is 145 centimeters, 55 inches wide. I cut off the selvage of the fabric, then fold the fabric in half, and then in half again. I press it along the way and prepare to cut out the fabric strips. The length of the strips you need to cut is provided in the pattern for each size. The red arrow indicates the length of the skirt, and the folded width of the fabric becomes the width of the skirt. I need to cut 4 strips measuring 38 centimeters, 15.5 inches, and join them into one long strip. As mentioned, all the lengths and widths for these strips for every size are given in the charts included in the pattern. Once I cut all 4 strips, I pin them together at the sides to join them into one long strip measuring 5 meters 80 centimeters. That equals about 6.3 yards. After pinning, I sew the seams with the machine, overlock them, and then bring my very long strip back to the table. I press all the seams well. Press the entire strip of fabric, fold it, and prepare to hem it with crinoline tape. So, what is crinoline tape? Crinoline tape is a flexible, stiff, woven synthetic tape used to give structure to fabric. It is most commonly used in the hems of dresses, skirts, and hats. It also goes by the name horsehair braid, because originally it was made from actual horsehair, but today it's made from nylon or polyester fibers. Crinoline tape is what gives the skirt that lovely bell shape. It creates volume at the bottom and adds a nice wavy effect to the hem. If we used only fabric and gathered it, we would end up with a boxy look and no flare at the bottom. That's the magic of crinoline tape. Now, I will add the crinoline to the long strip the skirt that I prepared. I place the fabric with the right side facing me and position the crinoline along the edge. To prevent the crinoline from moving or stretching, keep it flat in its original shape and pin it to the fabric edge. Don't pull or stretch it while pinning. Pin it along the entire 5.80 meters, 6 yards of fabric. When all is pinned, sew it with the machine. I sew from the side where the crinoline is, stitching directly over it. It's soft enough to sew through and won't harm the needle. I sew step by step, making sure the crinoline stays aligned with the edge of the fabric and removing the pins as I go. And when I reach the end of the fabric, I cut off the crinoline. After sewing the crinoline to the fabric, it's necessary to press it. I bring the long fabric strip to the table. Fold the crinoline away from the fabric as shown on the screen and press the entire 5.8 meter strip. It's very important to press the garment after each sewing step. Never leave all the pressing for the end. Pressing as you go makes the garment look more polished and more professional. After it is pressed, there is another step to do. Lay the strip flat on the table again, this time with the wrong side facing you. The strip was pressed with the crinoline folded away from the fabric. Now I bring the crinoline back onto the fabric and pin it along the entire length again, as shown. Once it is all pinned again, I sew it with the machine, gently guiding the fabric under the presser foot, taking the pins out only when needle approaches it, to make sure the crinoline stays in place and doesn't move while sewing. After it's sewn, it needs to be pressed once again. And now, the crinoline hem is finished. I'm showing you a close-up of how it looks when it's done. The wrong side of the skirt is the side where the crinoline is visible, and the right side is the one with a clean seam. So the hem is finished, but not the skirt. The hem is the bottom of the skirt. Now, to make this long strip look more like a skirt, the top edge needs to be gathered. I gather it with my regular domestic sewing machine by adjusting the thread tension and stitch length. I have a short video showing how to do this, so if you're not familiar with the technique, please check out that video. The link to it is in the first comment below. Since it's cotton fabric, the sewing machine gathered it as much as it could, but the strip still seems quite long. If the machine can't gather the fabric densely enough, the rest needs to be done by hand. So I find the bottom thread of the seam and pull it while gently pushing the fabric to the side, making the gathers even denser. Just a reminder, the strip was roughly 5 meters, 6 yards wide, and we need to gather it down to about 1 meter, 1.1 yard, so the gathers need to be really, really tight. When it's finally gathered to the needed width, this part of the skirt is done. As I mentioned, this is the base of the skirt, not the full skirt. This is this part of the skirt, but I will be adding few layers of tulle on top of it. I will be making a 4-layer tulle skirt, 3 layers of plain black tulle, and 1 layer of sparkly tulle. I prepare the tulle the same way I did with the cotton fabric. I fold it in half, then in half again, and cut out the strips. I will cut 6 strips of plain black tulle and 2 strips of sparkly tulle to get the needed width for the skirt. Then I will pile all 4 layers, guys, and we'll gather them all in one go. To make it easier to gather all 4 layers of tulle at the same time, I pin them together first. Then I take the piece to the machine and slowly guide the fabric under the presser foot. The alternative would be to gather each layer of tulle separately and then join them together at the top. The gathering process would be easier, but aligning and attaching them evenly afterward would be a slow job, so both methods are more or less time-consuming. I prefer gathering all the layers in one go, but you can use whichever method you find easier. After gathering, I still need to pull it a bit tighter by hand, just like I did with the cotton skirt. I pull it to the needed width, which is about 1 meter, and then the skirt is almost done. Just a couple more steps to go. The next step is to close the side seams for both the cotton skirt and the tulle skirt. So I just pin and sew that. Then I need to layer the cotton-based skirt with the tulle skirts, with the sparkly tulle being the top layer. I lay the cotton-based skirt on the floor first, then place the tulle skirt on top, and pin them together around the waist opening. And then sew that with the machine. And finally, we reached step number 3, joining the bodice and the skirt into the dress. So I place the bodice and the skirt on the table. I position the skirt so that its seam is at the back, right in the center. Then I take the bodice and start pinning it to the skirt from the center. It's very important to remember that the skirt opening is about 2 times wider than the bodice's waist opening. So the extra fabric of the skirt needs to be gathered even more to fit the bodice width. So the gathering happens when pinning. So first I pin from the center of the bodice to one side seam, then I proceed from the center of the bodice to another side seam, leaving the pinning to the back panel to the end. Another very important note, the stretchy back panel. The skirt must be pinned to the back panel while it is stretched. Only when it's pinned and sewn this way will the dress be able to stretch at the waist when putting it on or taking it off. So I stretch a section of the panel and pin some fabric. Then stretch the next section and pin again, and continue like this until all the fabric is fitted into the panel. Remember, you will also need to stretch the panel while sewing it on the machine. When everything is pinned, it's time to sew it on the machine. Before doing that, double-check that you pinned it correctly. The cotton sides of both the bodice and the skirt should be on the inside, and the sparkly sides of the bodice and the skirt should be on the outside. This is the most challenging part of the sewing process, I would say. Do it slowly and pay attention to the reminders I'll mention now. First of all, this part of the dress is quite thick, because the skirt is densely gathered, which adds bulk, and it's made from cotton, so that adds even more. To sew through all of this, a good sewing machine is needed. Ideally, a heavy-duty one. If you don't have one, you might consider sewing this part by hand. If you are sewing it by machine, it's best to set your stitch length longer. The thicker the fabrics, the longer the stitch should be. A short stitch, like the one I recommended for the armholes and neckline, would simply get stuck here, or the fabric might not move properly. For this seam, it's best to set the stitch length to about 4 millimeters. Take it slow, don't sew this part quickly. Make sure all the skirt fabric is swept inward and out of the way. Sew a few inches, double check that everything is lying correctly, then sew a few more inches, and continue like that. When you reach the stretchy back panel, don't forget to stretch it while you sew. You may also want to sew around this waist seam twice, for extra strength and durability. Alright, the heavy sewing is done. I'm getting closer to finishing the dress, just a couple more steps to go. I want to tidy up the waist seam. As you can see, it's an open seam and looks a bit rugged, so I'd like to cover it. The bodice is nicely lined, and I'd like to add a lining to the skirt as well. I will show you how to make a lining quickly without even using a pattern. I lay my lining fabric on the table and fold it in half. I need to cut the lining skirt the same length as the dress skirt, which is 38 centimeters, 15 inches. So I mark 15 inches from the edge of the fabric toward the corner. Then from the corner to the mark I left is 20 centimeters, 8 inches. So I move the tape in a circle manner and mark the 8-20 centimeters point in every few steps. This is the waistline. Then, from that line, in the same circle manner, I mark the 15-38 centimeters points in every few steps. And then I cut out that semicircle. This is going to be my lining skirt. I will just close the seam and sew the hem. The hem can be finished either with overlock stitch or as a simple rolled hem. I press the seam and the whole skirt and will add it to the dress now. Place the dress on the table as shown on the screen, with the wrong side facing you. Put the skirt lining inside the waist opening, tuck it in, and pin it all the way around. It needs to be sewn the same way as the main skirt was attached to the bodice with the back panel stretched. And that's it. The dress is now fully lined. No open seams, just nice and soft lining will be touching the skin. I really want to try it on the mannequin now. All seems good. I love how it fits. The only thing that's missing now are the back straps. I prepared back straps exactly the same way as the front straps, by layering 3 pieces of fabrics, plain tulle, lace, and sparkly tulle, and we'll pin them in place now directly on the mannequin. I want to place the straps in the center at the back. When I'm happy with the position of the straps at the back, I pin them on the inner side of the back panel and secure them there with the machine. And that's it, guys. All I need to do now is to tie the bows on the shoulders. I take all 3 layers together and tie the bow on the shoulder. Then I spread the layers apart to create a voluminous, dimensional bow on each shoulder. I also spread out the lace on the straps and gently pull out the curved details of the eyelash lace so they are visible and create a lovely detail on the back. And this is the end of the tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful and informative. If so, please press like and subscribe. This helps me grow and create more videos for you. The link to the pattern of this dress can be found in the first comment below. There, you will also find other useful related links. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you in the next one.